moment those words left his mouth, I felt something inside me freeze. "My ex is coming to Christmas dinner with us." He said it so casually, like he was telling me we'd run out of milk or that the weather was cold outside. For a second I just stared at him. My husband, the man I'd built my world around, the man who promised me I'd never have to question his loyalty. My fingers tightened around the edge of the table, and I forced a shaky laugh. "I'm sorry, what did you just say?" He looked up from his phone, not even noticing how my voice trembled. "Relax, Anna," he said. "It's not a big deal. She's just in town visiting her parents, and Mom thought it would be nice to invite her. You know, to keep things friendly." Friendly. That word hit me like a slap. His ex, the same woman who once broke his heart so badly he swore he'd never fall in love again. The same woman I had spent years trying to erase from his memories without ever saying her name out loud, and now she was coming to our Christmas dinner. I wanted to scream, to demand an explanation, but I could only whisper, "And you agreed to that?" He shrugged like it was nothing. "Of course. We're all adults here." Adults. Maybe he thought that word made everything okay, but I wasn't feeling very adult at that moment. I was feeling small, insecure, and strangely invisible. I could already imagine it, her sitting there smiling that perfect smile, his mother reminiscing about old times, the way they used to make everyone laugh together. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying his words in my head, wondering what it meant. Why was she still close enough to his family to be invited? Why did no one think to ask me how I'd feel about it? I looked at the wedding picture on my nightstand, the one where he's holding me like he'd never let go. I remembered the vows, the promises, the way he whispered, "You're my forever," and now it felt like forever had a guest list that included someone I was never meant to compete with. The next morning, I tried to act normal, made breakfast, smiled, but when he leaned over to kiss my forehead before work, I turned away just slightly. He didn't even notice. That hurt more than I could explain. The day before Christmas, I went shopping alone. I bought a new dress, deep red, elegant, something that made me feel powerful. Because if his ex was coming, I wasn't going to sit quietly and fade into the background. When Christmas Day arrived, I could feel my heart pounding from the moment we got into the car. His hand rested on the gear shift, inches from mine, but he didn't reach for it. The silence between us was thick. At his parents' house, everything looked perfect. The lights, the tree, the smell of cinnamon and roasted turkey. His mother greeted me with warmth, oblivious to the storm inside me, and then I heard the door open. Laughter, a familiar female voice. When I turned, I saw her, tall, confident, effortlessly beautiful, the kind of woman who didn't need to try. She walked straight toward us, her eyes lighting up when she saw my husband. "Wow, it's been so long," she said, throwing her arms around him before I could even breathe. He hugged her back, not a polite, quick hug, a real one, and in that moment, I smiled, not because I was happy, but because something inside me finally woke up. I wasn't going to let this night define me as the quiet, insecure wife. No, something inside me whispered, "You have no idea what's coming next." I took a slow breath, steadying the storm that was rising inside me. Every instinct screamed to walk out, to make a scene, to ask him right there, in front of everyone, "Does she still make you feel something?" But instead, I smiled, a calm, deliberate smile that said, "You won't see me break." Dinner began with laughter and small talk. His mother kept glancing between us, blissfully unaware of the quiet tension at the table. The ex, her name was Claire, sat directly across from me, her long hair catching the golden glow of the candles. She talked about her job, her travels, her fiancé who recently called off their engagement, and of course, my husband listened too closely. His eyes softened when she spoke, like he was remembering a song he used to love. I pressed my fork into the mashed potatoes, barely hearing the conversation around me. My heart was pounding so loud it drowned everything else. When I finally spoke, my voice was steady. "Claire, I've heard so much about you," I said. "You and Michael go way back, don't you?" Her lips curved into a nostalgic smile. "Oh, ages ago, feels like another lifetime now." She turned to him. "Remember that Christmas, when your car broke down on the way to the cab? We ended up walking 3 miles in the snow." Michael laughed, that deep, warm laugh I hadn't heard in weeks. "Oh God, yes, you were freezing. And I wrapped you in my jacket." Something inside me twisted, but I kept my expression serene. "How sweet," I murmured, glancing at him. You've always been good at taking care of people, haven't you? He nodded, still smiling. I try to be. Well, I said softly, setting down my fork. I suppose that's why I married you. The table went quiet for a moment, not tense, but weighed. Claire looked at me, and for the first time, there was a flicker in her eyes, a subtle acknowledgement that she could feel my calm wasn't weakness. Then came dessert. His mother brought out the family recipe, plum pudding with brandy sauce, and insisted Michael serve everyone. As he leaned forward to pour the sauce over Claire's plate, I noticed her hand brush against his wrist. It was quick, almost innocent, almost. That was when I stood up. Excuse me, I said, my voice clear. I need a moment. I walked to the kitchen, my hands trembling. My reflection in the microwave door looked nothing like me. Too composed, too distant. When I heard footsteps behind me, I already knew who it was. Anna, Michael said quietly. Are you okay? I turned to him. Am I okay? I repeated, my voice cracking just slightly. You tell me, Michael, because right now, I feel like a stranger at my own Christmas dinner. He sighed, running a hand through his hair. You're overthinking this. It's just Claire. She's been through a lot. I didn't want her to feel left out. I stepped closer, lowering my voice. And what about me? Did you think about how I'd feel, sitting there watching you relive your past with her? He didn't answer right away. That silence was worse than anything he could have said. I nodded slowly. You know what's funny? I used to think love meant trust, but maybe it also means boundaries, ones you forgot to protect. Before he could speak, Claire appeared in the doorway, her expression uncertain. I didn't mean to cause any trouble, she said softly. Maybe I should go. I turned toward her, my tone surprisingly gentle. No, Claire, you should stay. After all, it's Christmas, and there's something I'd like to say to everyone. Michael frowned. Anna, but I was already walking back to the dining room. My heart was pounding, but my voice was steady as I called everyone's attention. I stood by the tree, the lights casting soft shadows across the room. You know, I began, Christmas is supposed to be about love, about truth, about the people who matter most. And tonight, I realized something important about both love and truth. I looked straight at my husband. Sometimes, love isn't tested by what happens when everything is perfect. It's tested by who still stands by you when things get uncomfortable. He looked down, unable to meet my eyes. I took a deep breath, then turned toward Claire. You were a part of his past, and that's okay. But I'm his present, and maybe it's time everyone, including him, remembered that. The room was silent. Even the soft Christmas music seemed to fade away. Claire gave a small nod, her eyes glistening. You're right, she whispered. You deserve his full heart, not his memory. I smiled faintly. Thank you. And for the first time that evening, I felt calm, not angry, not insecure, just calm. Because sometimes, strength doesn't come from shouting or leaving. It comes from standing tall in the middle of chaos and refusing to shrink. But what happened after that, when the guests left, and it was just me and Michael again, changed everything. When the last car pulled away and the sound of laughter faded down the driveway, the house finally fell silent. The Christmas lights still glowed softly, their colors reflecting off the ornaments, like tiny shards of memory. I sat on the couch, still wearing that red dress, my hands clasped in my lap. I could feel the exhaustion seeping through me, not from the night itself, but from holding myself together for so long. Michael stood by the fireplace, his tie loosened, his face unreadable. For a while neither of us spoke. The clock ticked, the logs crackled. It was the kind of silence that felt like standing at the edge of a cliff. One wrong word, and everything could fall apart. Finally he said quietly, You didn't have to say all that in front of everyone. I looked up at him, surprised. Didn't have, I repeated, my voice low but steady. Michael, do you even understand what tonight felt like for me? He rubbed his face, sighing. You embarrassed me, Anna. My parents didn't need to hear all that drama. Drama, I cut in, standing up. You invited your ex to Christmas dinner without asking me, let her hug you like you were still hers, and I'm the one causing drama? He didn't answer, and the silence, after that, felt heavier than before. I walked toward the tree, my back to him. You know, I said quietly, I spent the whole week convincing myself not to make a scene. I thought if I stayed calm, if I smiled, maybe you'd see that I trusted you. But watching you laugh with her, watching you forget I was sitting right there, that broke something, Mike. He came closer, his voice softening. Anna, you're overreacting. She means nothing to me now. I turned sharply to face him. Then why did it look like she still did? He flinched. Not visibly, but just enough for me to notice. I took a breath, tears threatening to spill, but my voice still firm. You don't get to decide when I'm hurt. You don't get to dismiss it, because it's inconvenient. Tonight, I realized something. I've spent so much of our marriage trying to be understanding, trying to make you comfortable, even when I was uncomfortable. But love shouldn't feel one-sided like that. He ran a hand through his hair, frustration mixing with guilt. So what do you want me to do, Anna? Tell my mom not to invite people? Ignore everyone who ever mattered to me before you came along? I shook my head. No, I want you to remember that you're married now. That when someone from your past walks into your present, you don't just open the door without thinking about the person standing beside you. He sank onto the couch, exhaling slowly. I didn't mean to hurt you, he said, voice barely above a whisper. I sat across from him, my tone softer now. I know you didn't, but sometimes, pain doesn't come from cruelty. It comes from carelessness. For a long moment, we sat in silence again, the glow of the Christmas tree washing the room in gold and green. I could see the weight of realization settle on his face. His voice cracked slightly when he said, "You're right. I should have thought about you first. I didn't think it would matter this much." I smiled sadly. That's exactly the problem, Michael. You didn't think it would. He nodded slowly, eyes glassy with regret. I'll fix this, I promise. I studied him. The man I loved. The man who sometimes forgot that love needs protecting even from the smallest things. I wanted to believe him. I really did. But somewhere deep inside, a quiet voice whispered that things wouldn't be that simple anymore. Because once trust cracks, it doesn't shatter loudly, it crumbles quietly, one piece at a time. I stood up, picking up my coat from the chair. He looked at me, alarmed. "Where are you going?" "For a walk," I said softly. "I just need some air." He stood too. "Anna, it's freezing outside. Please don't." I turned at the door, meeting his eyes. "Don't worry, I'll be fine. I just need to remember who I was before I started apologizing for feeling things." And with that, I stepped out into the cold night. The snow was falling lightly, covering everything in a quiet white stillness. Each step I took left a mark that would soon disappear, like the perfect metaphor for the evening. But as I walked, something inside me began to shift. I wasn't just hurt anymore, I was aware. And what happened when I came back, what I found waiting in that house, was something I never expected. The night air bit at my cheeks, but I welcomed the sting. It was real, honest, something I hadn't felt in that house for hours. The snow crunched softly beneath my boots as I walked past the flickering lights of the neighborhood. I didn't know where I was going. I just needed to move, to breathe, to clear the noise that had filled my head since Michael's words that morning. The world was quiet, except for the faint hum of distant laughter. Families still gathered, sharing warmth and stories. I envied them, but more than that, I envied the version of myself who used to believe that love could survive anything as long as it was pure. That version of me hadn't yet learned that even love needs protection. After nearly an hour, I turned back. My fingers were numb, and my heart had quieted, just enough to face what was waiting. As I approached the house, I saw the glow of the Christmas lights through the window, and then I saw him, Michael, sitting on the couch, his head in his hands. The sight almost broke me. When I opened the door, the warmth hit me immediately, and so did his voice. "Anna," he breathed, standing up quickly. "God, I was so worried. You've been gone for over an hour." I closed the door gently, brushing snow from my coat. "I needed time," I said softly, "to think." He stepped closer, his eyes filled with something I hadn't seen in a while, fear. "You were right," he said, his voice low and rough, "about everything. I was selfish. I didn't think about you and I made you feel like a stranger in your own marriage. That's on me." I wanted to stay cold to protect myself, but his voice cracked, and for the first time that night, he looked small. "I saw you walking away," he said, his throat tightening, "and for a second, I thought I'd lost you, and I realized I've been taking your love for granted. You've always been the one holding everything together, even when I was too blind to see it." He took a deep breath. "I don't want to be that man anymore. I stared at him for a long time, studying his face, the guilt, the regret, the trembling in his hand. Words are easy, Michael, I said quietly. Change isn't. I know, he replied. That's why I did something while you were gone. He walked over to the table and picked up his phone. I called Claire. I froze. You what? He nodded. I told her that tonight made me realize I'd crossed a line. I told her we can't stay in touch anymore, not because I hate her, but because I love you and I need to prove that to you, not just say it. For a moment, I couldn't breathe. My mind raced, unsure if it was relief or disbelief flooding through me. You really did that? He nodded again, his eyes searching mine. I told her she can't be part of our lives anymore, that it's not fair to you, and she understood. I sank onto the couch, feeling the weight of everything. Michael, I whispered, it's not just about Claire, it's about how easily you let me feel replaceable. I need to know that when something or someone from your past knocks on our door, you'll still choose me first. He knelt in front of me, his voice breaking. I will, I swear I will. I'm sorry, Anna. I don't deserve your forgiveness, but I'm begging you for a chance to earn it. The silence that followed was long, heavy and full of unspoken things. My heart ached, half from love, half from everything we'd broken. Finally, I whispered, I'm not ready to forgive you yet. He nodded slowly, tears welling in his eyes. That's okay, I'll wait. We sat there in the dim light of the tree, both of us broken in different ways, yet somehow still holding on. But just when I thought the night had finally found its peace, when I thought maybe, just maybe, we could begin to rebuild, there was a sound, a ding from his phone. He froze. So did I, and the name that lit up his screen made my blood run cold. It was Claire. Michael's face went pale the moment her name appeared on his screen. The glow from the phone illuminated his features. The shock, the panic, the guilt, all laid bare. For a few seconds, neither of us moved. The only sound was the faint hum of the heater and the Christmas clock ticking above the mantel, marking the moment everything inside me shifted again. I didn't raise my voice, I didn't snatch the phone from him, I just stared and said quietly, you said you called her to end it. He swallowed hard, locking the screen. I did, I swear, Anna. I told her not to contact me again. I don't know why she's texting. Then open it, I interrupted, my tone calm but cutting. Let's both see why she's messaging you. He hesitated, eyes flickering between me and the phone. In that hesitation, that half-second of silence, said more than any confession ever could. My heart clenched. Michael, I whispered, why are you hesitating? He rubbed his forehead, exhaling like a man standing on the edge of a cliff. Because I don't want to hurt you more than I already have. That was when I knew, whatever was on that phone wasn't innocent. I took a step closer. Then you already have. He closed his eyes, then slowly turned the screen toward me. The message was short, but it was enough to make my stomach twist. I'm sorry for what happened tonight. I didn't mean to stir things up. I still think about us sometimes. You'll always mean something to me. My eyes burned. I looked up at him, my voice barely a whisper. And you called her to end it. I did, he said quickly. I told her it was over. I didn't expect her to send that. I swear I didn't respond. Didn't yet respond. I said softly, that's the difference. He shook his head, stepping closer. Anna, please, you have to believe me. I didn't want this. I didn't ask for it. She's having a hard time. And maybe she's clinging to the past. I laughed bitterly. You keep saying she's clinging. But tell me, Michael, who opened the door for her to walk back into your life? Who let her sit at our dinner table and relive her memories with my husband? He didn't have an answer. Tears slid down my cheeks, hot and silent. You know, the saddest part of this isn't her message. It's that I used to think you were incapable of betraying me, that your love was solid, safe, a home I could rest in. But now, I shook my head slowly. Now, even silence from your phone feels like a threat. He reached for me, but I stepped back. Don't, I said softly. Not right now, Anna. Please, he pleaded. I'm not cheating on you. I didn't even reply. You just didn't protect us, I said, and that's what hurts. I turned toward the window, watching the snow fall harder now, blurring the world outside into a quiet haze. When you marry someone, Michael, you promise to guard their heart, not just with words, but with your actions, your distance, your choices. You promised me that once. He lowered his gaze, his voice breaking, and I broke it. I know, for a long time I said nothing. The house felt heavy, thick with everything we'd both left unsaid over the years. Finally, I took a slow breath and said, "You have two choices now. You can delete that message, block her, and rebuild this from the ground up, with honesty, no excuses, no contact with her ever again. Or you can keep pretending this is nothing, and lose me for good." His eyes filled with tears. "I'll do whatever it takes. I'll prove it, Anna. I'll show you." I met his gaze, searching for something. Truth, maybe, then start by deleting her number. He unlocked his phone with trembling hands, scrolling to her contact, and for a brief second, I saw something flicker in his eyes, a hesitation, a memory, a ghost of what once was. But then he pressed delete. The sound of it was quiet, almost meaningless. But to me, it was the sound of something breaking, and maybe, just maybe, beginning again. I nodded slowly. "Good," I said softly. "Now we see what comes next." He looked at me, confused. "What do you mean?" I walked past him toward the hallway, my voice steady. "I mean, this isn't fixed yet. I'm going to my sister's for a few days. You'll have time to think about what kind of man you really want to be, the one who keeps old doors open, or the one who finally learns to close them." He didn't stop me, maybe because deep down, he knew this was the only way left. I packed my bag quietly, my wedding ring glinting under the dim light. As I zipped the suitcase, I whispered to myself, sometimes walking away isn't punishment, it's protection. And as I stepped out into the snow again, I had no idea what the next chapter would bring, whether forgiveness or finality. But I knew one thing for sure, that Christmas, something inside me, changed forever. When I stepped outside again, the cold didn't bite this time. It felt cleansing, almost like the world was giving me permission to let go of the weight I'd carried all evening. The snow had deepened, coating the street in a soft, silent blanket, and each breath I took came out in a small cloud of white. I could see my car under the porch light, half buried in frost. I opened the door, sat inside, and for a long moment, I just stared at my reflection in the windshield. I didn't cry, not this time, maybe, because I'd already done enough of that over the years. Quietly, privately, every time Michael forgot to see how hard I'd been trying. The drive to my sister's house took half an hour. The roads were empty, and all the radio stations were playing carols. The irony of Silent Night playing while my marriage was anything but silent didn't escape me. When I reached her house, the lights were still on. She opened the door in her pajamas, confusion quickly turning into concern. "Anna, it's past midnight. What happened?" I gave her a faint smile. "Can I stay for a few days?" She didn't ask questions. She just nodded, hugged me tightly, and said, "Of course you can." Inside, the warmth and smell of cinnamon hit me, the kind of simple comfort I didn't realize I'd been craving. We sat on the couch, and for the first time all night, I told someone everything. From the moment Michael said his ex was coming to dinner, to the message on his phone, to the decision I made to walk away. My sister listened quietly, her hand wrapped around mine. When I finished, she exhaled deeply. "You did the right thing," she said. "You've spent too long trying to be the understanding one. Sometimes, people need to lose your presence to understand your worth." I looked down at my hands. "I don't even know what I want anymore. I love him. I always have, but I'm tired of loving someone who doesn't protect my heart." She squeezed my hand gently. "Then maybe it's time to start protecting it yourself." That night, I slept in her guest room, not peacefully, but with a strange calm I hadn't felt in years. It was the calm of someone who'd finally stopped pretending everything was fine. The next morning, I woke to a series of missed calls and messages from Michael. "Please pick up. I can't sleep. I need to talk to you." I deleted everything. I blocked her. "I mean it this time. I love you, Anna. Please don't give up on us." Each message cut deep, but I didn't reply. Not yet. I needed to feel what silence felt like, the kind he used to give me whenever I tried to talk about my feelings. Maybe, now he'd understand what that silence really meant. Over the next 2 days, I thought a lot, about love, about loyalty, about how easy it is for people to confuse comfort with commitment. By the third day, a knock came at my sister's door. When I opened it, Michael stood there, tired, unshaven, eyes red like he hadn't slept at all. In his hands, He held a small box wrapped in gold paper. I folded my arms. "What are you doing here?" He swallowed hard. "I needed to see you. I know you said you needed space, but I couldn't just sit there not knowing if I've already lost you." I didn't answer. He took a slow breath and held out the box. "This was supposed to be your Christmas gift. I didn't get the chance to give it to you that night." I hesitated, then took it. Inside was a delicate silver locket. Simple, elegant. But what caught my breath wasn't the jewelry. It was what was inside it. On one side, a tiny photo of our wedding day. On the other, a note engraved in tiny letters. "My heart has only one home." Tears stung my eyes. "Michael." He stepped closer, voice shaking. "I know I failed you, Anna, not because I cheated, but because I didn't protect what we built. I let someone from my past come too close to our present, but I swear to you, I've learned my lesson. I don't want anyone else at our table, in our story, or in my heart ever again." I could hear the sincerity in his voice, but sincerity isn't always enough to fix broken things. I took a deep breath. "It's going to take time," I said softly. "A lot of it. I don't know if things will ever feel the same." He nodded. "Then I'll wait, for as long as it takes." For a long time we just stood there, both broken, both hopeful, both scared. I didn't say I'd come home. I didn't say I forgave him, but I didn't close the door either. Sometimes, that's how healing starts, not with promises, but with pauses. And as he walked away that evening, snow falling gently around him, I touched the locket and whispered to myself, maybe love isn't about who stays, it's about who learns how to stay better. But little did I know, that wasn't the end of the story, because a week later, something unexpected happened. Something that would test everything I thought I knew about forgiveness. When I finally returned home a week later, the house felt both familiar and foreign. The scent of pine still lingered from the Christmas tree that had begun to dry out, its needles scattered across the floor like remnants of a celebration that had ended too soon. The lights were still up, but dimmer now, like they too were tired. Michael was in the kitchen when I walked in. He turned quickly, his face lighting up with surprise and cautious relief. "Anna, I'm just here to pick up a few things," I said softly. "I didn't come back." "Not yet," he nodded, eyes dropping. "I understand." We moved around each other quietly, careful, like strangers sharing the same space. But as I gathered my things, something caught my attention. An envelope, sitting on the counter with my name written on it, in his handwriting. "What's this?" I asked. He hesitated. "Something I should have given you earlier. I wanted to put everything in writing, so you'd know I mean it." I opened it slowly. Inside was a letter, several pages, written in his uneven scrawl. His words were raw, unpolished, painfully honest. He wrote about his childhood fears, his insecurities, and how he'd always struggled to feel enough. How Claire had once made him feel seen in a way he mistook for love, and how when she left, he built walls so high that even when he fell in love with me, he didn't know how to let me fully in. He wrote about how my calmness scared him, sometimes, how my strength made him feel weak, and how instead of rising to meet it, he sometimes drifted toward people who reminded him of who he used to be, not who he wanted to become. And at the end of the letter, he wrote, "I realized something, Anna. Love isn't just about who makes you happy, it's about who makes you better. And I haven't been making you better. I've been breaking you slow. I can't undo what's happened. But I can promise this, if you ever decide to give me another chance, I'll spend the rest of my life learning how to love you the way you deserve. No more ghosts, no more excuses, just us." By the time I reached the end, my tears had blurred the ink. I folded the pages carefully, my chest tight with emotions I couldn't name, anger, sorrow, tenderness, all tangled together. I looked up at him. "Why didn't you ever say these things before?" He shrugged weakly. "Because I thought I had time. But when you walked out, I realized time doesn't wait for people who take love for granted." For a moment we just looked at each other, two people who had loved deeply but forgotten how to protect that love. Then, just as I was about to speak, his phone buzzed on the counter. My stomach dropped. Again, he noticed my expression and immediately raised his hands. "It's not her, I promise." I stared at the phone. "Then show me." He sighed, picked it up, and turned the screen toward me. It wasn't Claire. It was a message from an unknown number. Just one sentence. You don't know the full truth. Anna deserves to. My blood ran cold. Who is that? He looked as confused as I felt. I don't know. I grabbed the phone, my hands trembling. What does that even mean? I swear I have no idea, he said quickly. I blocked Claire, deleted everything, but before I could respond, another message came through. Ask him about the night before Christmas Eve. I froze. The room suddenly felt smaller, the air heavier. Slowly I turned to look at him. What happened the night before Christmas Eve? Michael? His face went blank. His lips parted, but no words came out. My voice shook. You told me you were working late. Were you? He opened his mouth again, but this time, I could see it, the flicker of fear in his eyes. The kind that only appears when someone is hiding something they swore you'd never find out. I took a step back. Tell me the truth, Michael. He dropped his gaze to the floor, his voice barely audible. Anna, it's not what you think. But it was too late. My heart already knew, and as the weight of his silence filled the room, I whispered, Then tell me what it is. He lifted his head slowly, tears in his eyes, and what he said next shattered everything I thought I knew about our marriage. He closed his eyes for a moment, as if searching for the strength to speak. When he finally did, his voice came out raw and shaky. The night before Christmas Eve, he began, I didn't go to work. Every muscle in my body tensed. Then where were you? I asked quietly, even though part of me already feared the answer. He ran a trembling hand through his hair. Claire called me that evening. She said she needed to meet just to talk. She was crying, said she was having a panic attack, and didn't have anyone else to call. I didn't think, I just went. I felt my heartbeat pounding in my ears. You went to her, I whispered. After everything you promised me about keeping boundaries, you went. It wasn't like that, he said quickly. I met her at the cafe near the highway. I sat there for maybe half an hour. She was breaking down over her ex. Over her life. I swear, nothing happened. Nothing happened, I repeated slowly, tasting the words, turning them over like broken glass. You left your wife alone 2 nights before Christmas, to go comfort the woman who used to have your heart, and you call that nothing? He looked pained. Anna, please. I didn't want to tell you, because I knew how it would sound, but I swear, there was nothing romantic about it. She was just lost. I could feel tears stinging my eyes, but I held them back. And what about me, Michael? Do you think I wasn't lost too? That maybe I needed my husband more than she did. He tried to come closer, but I stepped back. I should have told you, he said. I know that now. But I swear on everything, I didn't betray you. I just made a stupid, impulsive mistake. I laughed, a quiet, broken sound. You keep calling them mistakes, Michael. But mistakes stop being accidents when they keep repeating the same pattern. You didn't just forget me that night, you chose her. He looked like I'd slapped him. No, he whispered, shaking his head. I chose wrong, but I never chose her. I turned away, trying to catch my breath, staring at the window where the snow had begun to fall again. And how did she even know to message me? Who told her I didn't know about that night? I didn't, he said quickly. I haven't spoken to her since Christmas Day. I swear, Anna, I don't know how she... The phone buzzed again. Both of us stared at it. Another mess. You should ask him what he said to me that night. I looked up at him slowly, my voice shaking. What did you say to her? He opened his mouth, closed it, and then whispered. I told her that sometimes I miss how easy things used to be. That's it. That's all I said. I didn't mean it the way it sounds. The words hit me like ice water. Easy, I repeated. That's what she was to you? Easy? Anna, please, it came out wrong. No, I cut in, my voice sharp. It came out exactly how you felt. You missed her because she reminded you of the version of yourself that didn't have to grow up, didn't have to show up, didn't have to try. He sank into the chair, head in his hands. I was stupid. I just wanted to feel normal again. The pressure, the distance between us, it got into my head. I never should have said it. I regret it. Every single second. I stood there, my chest tightening, my throat burning. I wanted to scream, to throw something, to shake him until the truth hurt as much for him as it did for me, but instead, I whispered, "You didn't just break my heart, Michael, you broke my trust, the one thing that made this marriage feel like home." He lifted his head, tears streaking his face. "Anna, please, I'll do anything. Therapy, counseling, whatever it takes, don't give up on me." I stared at him for a long, long moment. Then I said softly, "I don't know if there's anything left to give up on." I turned toward the door, my voice trembling but steady. "If she wants to tell me more, let her. I'd rather know the whole truth than live in your half versions of it." And as I reached for the doorknob, another message lit up his phone, one that stopped me cold. "He's not telling you about the hotel." I froze. Slowly, I turned back toward him. His face went white. "Michael," I whispered, my voice shaking, "what hotel?" He didn't answer. That silence was louder than any confession could have been. Michael's silence stretched so long that I could hear the wind howling outside. I didn't need to know every literal detail to understand what that silence meant. There are moments in life when words lose their shape, when what someone doesn't say becomes the whole truth. He finally whispered, "I met her at a hotel lobby that night. She said she didn't want to be seen crying in public. I went inside. We talked. She left. That's all." Maybe that was true, maybe it wasn't, but something inside me broke anyway. Not because of the place, but because of the pattern. Every step he'd taken had been one step further away from me. I turned from him, my voice low. "Even if you're telling the truth, Michael, the moment you walked through those doors, you made me the woman who didn't know. Do you understand how that feels?" He nodded, crying openly now. "Yes, and I hate myself for it." I picked up my coat, still trembling. "I don't hate you," I said, "but I can't keep living in the shadow of what you regret. I need to remember who I am when I'm not trying to forgive you." He reached for me, but stopped mid-air, as if he finally realized that apologies can't bridge every distance. "I'll wait," he said quietly. "Even if you never come back." I looked at him for a long time. Then I said the only honest thing left. "Don't wait. Change." When I stepped outside, the night was still and bright. The world looked clean again, blank as a new page. The snow under my feet whispered with every step. I thought of all the women who stay too long because they mistake endurance for love, and I promised myself I wouldn't be one of them anymore. I didn't know where the road would lead, whether healing would bring us back together someday, or guide me toward a new beginning. But for the first time in years, the air felt light in my lungs. Sometimes, closure isn't a conversation. Sometimes, it's the sound of your own footsteps walking toward peace. 3 months later, the rhythm of Anna's life had changed completely. The mornings that once began with quiet breakfasts in the hum of Michael's coffee maker were now filled with the sound of birds outside her small rented apartment. It wasn't home yet, not in the way her old house had been, but it was her. She'd taken a leave from work after everything fell apart, thinking she needed distance. But distance, she learned, doesn't heal you unless you fill it with something meaningful. So, she began volunteering at a community shelter, a place filled with stories far heavier than her own. There, among women who'd lost far more than she had, Anna found something unexpected, strength that didn't depend on anyone else's apology. One chilly afternoon, while stacking donated blankets, a woman named Rosa looked at her and said, "You talk like someone who's still learning how to breathe again." Anna smiled faintly. "Maybe I am," Rosa nodded. "Good. Breathing is how you remember you survived." That night, Anna sat by her window, sipping tea and watching the city lights flicker. She picked up her phone, Michael's number still saved, still untouched. She hadn't blocked him, she didn't hate him, but she also hadn't answered the few messages he'd sent, each one softer, more unsure than the last. "I started therapy. I hope you're okay. I'm sorry I made you forget who you were." She didn't respond, because this time, the story wasn't about him learning, it was about her remembering. Still, there were nights when memories would sneak in like ghosts. Christmas lights, his laughter, the way he used to trace circles on her hand when they watched old movies. The love hadn't disappeared, it had just changed shape. One weekend, her friend Lila convinced her to go on a short trip to the coast. "You need air, Anna," she said. "Not the city kind. The kind that smells like salt and starts over every morning." So, she was standing by the sea, the cold wind tangling her hair. Anna finally let herself cry. Not out of sadness, but out of release. She realized healing wasn't a straight line, it was messy, slow and full of moments where you still missed the person who hurt you. But now, she missed him without losing herself. As the tide came in, she whispered, "Thank you for the lesson." And for the first time in a long time, she felt something close to peace. But peace has a strange way of testing you, because a few weeks later, as she was leaving the shelter one evening, she saw a familiar figure standing by the gate, holding a box of donated food, waiting for her. Michael. He looked different, tired, thinner, but calmer somehow. When their eyes met, he didn't move closer. He just said softly, "I heard you were helping here. I didn't come to talk about us. I came to help." Anna froze, unsure what to feel. Part of her wanted to turn around. Another part, curious, cautious, stayed still. "You really think this is a good idea?" she asked quietly. He shook his head. "I don't know, but I figured, maybe the best way to show I've changed isn't to tell you, it's to do something that matters." She watched him for a long moment. Then, without saying a word, she nodded toward the door. "Come on, we're short on hands tonight." And as they worked side by side that evening, neither of them mentioned the past. Not once. The silence between them wasn't bitter anymore, it was gentle, almost grateful. Sometimes, the most powerful reconciliation isn't romantic, it's the kind that lets two people finally exist in the same space, without the weight of what they once were. As the shelter lights dimmed and they packed up the last of the food boxes, Anna looked at him and said, "You really are changing, aren't you?" He smiled faintly. "Try." She returned the smile, softer this time. "Then maybe we both are."